Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the University of Alaska Center for Innovation, Commercialization, and Entrepreneurship webinar for Alaska Fast. My name is Evelyn Jacome, and I am the Program Director of Alaska Fast at UAF. Today, we're going to talk about the Small Business Innovation Research Program that is offered throughout the SBIR program through federal agencies. We have a few items on the agenda. The first one, we are going to do an overview of what is the program. Then we're going to discuss what federal agencies are part of the program for SBIR and STTR. And at the end, we're going to discuss the recent State of Alaska SBIR STTR Matching Funds program that was recently approved in this budget year. So that's pretty exciting. And we're going to have time to do Q&A at the end. So what is small business innovation research or a small business technology transfer? I think John for sure knows what it is. But just to review it again, this is a program that was approved by Congress, and one of the goals is to stimulate technological innovation in the private sector and support small businesses and early stage entrepreneurs. The goal is to strengthen the role of small businesses, but also support underrepresented entrepreneurs that could not potentially benefit from an investor really early stage or are not in that Silicon Valley a landscape for innovation, and this is a potential avenue for them to access that seed funding. If you are wondering what is STTR, STTR is very similar to the SBIR program, but it is in partnership with a national lab or a research institution. This means that you as a small business is doing the work of the research and development, but in partnership with one of these organizations. And not all of the opportunity solicitations that come out have STTR programs. There are some specific opportunities that are tailored specifically with STTR. So you need to essentially assess if you have the strengths within your team and your small business to carry out the research. That is great. You're looking at an SBIR. But if you are hoping to leverage another strength of research or other resources through a partner university or a partner national lab, you are probably looking at an STTR. And there are some requirements in order to participate in the program. And the first one is that you need to be a for-profit entity. So you need to be a business and you need to be located in the United States. More than 50% owned and controlled by one or more individuals need to be US citizens or resident aliens within the United States. And the small business can have more than 500 employees. So if you have 101 employees, you are not eligible for SBIR. This is essentially the definition of a small business in the country. So that's something to keep in mind. And most importantly, all of the research that you are going to carry out needs to be performed within the United States. So let's say, for example, that you are looking to partner with a research institution in Australia or in England, and you would like to pay a salary for someone there, that is not an option. The researcher most likely need to come here and perform their research here, or you need to find someone within the United States to do that work. So what are some good reasons to pursue SBIR and STTR funding, right? The most important thing is no equity will be taken from your company and your business. What does this mean? This is essentially a grant. It's free dollars. And sometimes when you are looking for funding, you can go to an investor or an angel investor or the bank. And usually you're giving up something or you have to repay the bank loan, obviously, back. But in this case, this is non-dilutive. This also is very important because as an entrepreneur, you don't want to risk your livelihood or your own capital because it's really risky to innovate. So this is one of those programs that allows you to be innovative and take risks, but not affect directly your business or your livelihood. Why is another reason to pursue this type of funding a good idea? It's because the government doesn't take any stake of your business or your idea. It will keep reasonably data out of the outcome of your reports, but they're not going to take any IP or any rights from your business. And if you are seriously considering government contracting, this is one step in the door in that world. It is really interesting because the biggest agency that has a high amount of SBIR, STTR dollar is the Department of Defense. So that means that Army, Navy, and Air Force is looking to invest in small businesses, but also at the end of their phase 1 and their phase 2, potentially offering them a contract. So that is invaluable. If you think you are potentially looking into seriously government contracting, I would certainly recommend SBIR for DoD. NASA also is the other agency that offers government contracting, but the other agencies, for example, NSF, USDA, DOE, they don't really have contracting options at the end. But having said that, why SBIR and STTR is one of those really good programs for starting as an innovator is that you develop a strong business plan and a business model, and you will eventually get to your customer segment. So that is the goal at the end of that phase 1 and phase 2, is for you to be ready to launch your product, start selling, or if not, finding a new investor to grow and ultimately commercializing your technology. So that's in itself the goal, or some sort of contracting similar to DoD. It is important to mention for innovators that SBIR, STTR is not a business. You are not tailoring all of your resources and energy only to get an award from SBIR. SBIR is very time consuming, and also it takes a little bit to get through in the process. So it takes about 5 to 6 months to receive the notice of award, and then if you are successful, you will get the award, but if not, you'll have to revamp and do a resubmission. So it is not a business plan. It could be part of your business plan if you are a good fit for this type of funding, but you need to have a very good idea of where are the other funding resources you can have access to, because this type of funding is not going to take you to your ultimate customer segment, or it's not going to ultimately become the reason why you're a successful business. So it is a step, it is a tool, but it's not the ultimate business plan. So something to keep in mind, there are several phases for the SBIR program, and I like to explain the phases of the SBIR program since phase 0, which is when you become aware of the opportunity and you want to develop a proposal. Most of us that are in this webinar might be in the phase 0, and we are looking on resources, mini grants, or agency support, or Alaska or FAST programs to understand how to be successful in the SBIR STTR program. And here in Alaska, we actually, apart from Alaska FAST programming, we also have the Alaska Trend SBDC. And the Alaska SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, offers every summer the opportunity to apply for a mini grant of up to $10,000 to submit and develop a proposal for SBIR. That program should be rolling out in a couple of months. So keep an eye on our social media channels. If you are subscribed to a newsletter, you'll probably get it through the newsletter when they announce, but these $10,000 are essentially for you to utilize either hiring a grant writer, or potentially doing a little bit more of market research, customer research, or potentially developing some sort of prototype, finding a way to de-risk your technology so you're more successful at receiving a phase 1. So that's the phase 0. You are aware of the opportunity, you're looking resources to develop a proposal. Once you develop the proposal, you submit the proposal, and if you're successful, you get awarded a phase 1. And the phase 1 proposal essentially is the concept development of your idea. So you're saying, I have this idea and I want to learn and research if it's feasible. It's an idea that let's say it's going to save the world from hunger. But is it a great idea? But I don't know if I can make it happen, right? I need to research if this idea can be made physically, if this idea is going to be affordably, if I can make it happen, if I have the right knowledge within my team, if it's tested, what kind of metrics. So this is the earliest stage of your innovation of your phase one. You really need to develop the concept. And usually within all federal agencies, the amount awarded for a phase one is between $75,000 to up to $275,000. And the duration of a phase one is 3 to 12 months. So it is a big difference, right? 3 months, 12 months, but usually you're looking at 6 months to 10 months. The amount that you will be awarded, it will have to be literally the scope of work, a lot of labor hours probably for those researchers for your work in developing the concept. And sadly, but very realistically, the success rate for a phase one, if you've never applied before, is 15%. So you're looking at a success rate of 15%, which is not ideal, right? That no one wants to hear that. You want to be successful at the first go, right? But that is unlikely in many ways. But let's pretend that you're also pitching for money into different investors, and you're trying to raise capital from different banks. And the truth is that it's not going to be the first time that you go to the first banker or the first investor that you're going to have funding, right? It's probably going to take, in an early stage innovation where everything is super risky, it's going to take talking to 50 to 100 investors or talking to all of the banks in the West Coast. So it is really important to understand when I'm talking about the success rate, because it's so early stage and so risky, it's pretty low, but in comparison to raising funds from other resources and other angel investors, it's still pretty hard to find that funding. So it sounds pretty bad, but actually SBIR allows you to resubmit. So usually when you submit a application, a phase one proposal, you will get feedback back, and there is a scoring metric, and you will be able to understand where you score low, what are the areas of improvement, and obviously how can you be successful next time. It helps a lot that there are resources like the ones we are able to offer through our Alaska FAST program to access and to tap into that before going through, just by yourself, going through a phase one submission. But having said that, it's pretty competitive. And there's a strong interest, I want to emphasize this as well, to award more phase ones in Alaska. So there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of, I want to say, goodwill, but you still need to have a really good proposal, be super competitive, have the right type of innovation, and be a good fit for the topic and that federal agency, so to be successful, and have the right team. So it's a lot of components that need to be developed and work on, but thankfully now we can support you through that process, and it's something that it could be successful or resubmitted, and your likelihoods after a resubmission goes up significantly. The good news is, after you are awarded a phase one, a phase two to build a prototype actually goes up by 45%. So if you get awarded a phase one, you most likely will get a phase two, but it will depend on many variables and many things. But the most important thing is that you have a highest chance of success, and the budget usually assigned for a phase two is between $500,000 up to $1.5 million. The National Institute of Health have a bigger budget for a phase two, but that sometimes include clinical trials, and that's why it's a little bit more higher. But usually a phase two is to essentially saying, yes, I was able to prove that my concept is feasible and I can make it happen, so my hypothesis is correct. And my phase two is all about building that prototype. So you want to build that prototype. A lot of the budget of phase two will look like labor, will look like materials, will look like testing. Lots of testing will look like different type of ways of proving that your prototype works. And ultimately, depending on what is the scope of your work, you could apply for another phase two, or you can continue applying for a phase one. It just really depends how you are planning and what is the project of the innovation looking like. And having said this, on phase three, you're looking at commercial sales, right? So the point of the program is, after you complete a phase 1 and a phase 2. A phase 3 is not awarded by any federal agency, but potentially would be commercializing and selling your technology. The only similar comparable phase 3 would be with the DoD for government contracting, but usually you're looking at commercialization directly through your customer channels, or you'll be looking at more funding from more serious investors to grow if that's what you need to scale up, or a version of developing your technology through selling your IP, or continue partnering with your research institution. There's like many ways of commercializing, but essentially that this is kind of the point of the program, right? For helping de-risk your idea, then building a prototype, and then eventually getting to your final customer segment. What are the participating agencies? Well, there's 11, and most of them have a good focus in Alaskan issues, and you could potentially start thinking right now while we are in this webinar, well, I think maybe I might be a good fit for USDA. Why? Maybe because your topic is in food or in agriculture, but actually USDA is pretty broad. I think USDA is one of those agencies that could be a good fit for a lot of innovators in Alaska. Given that there's a lot of emphasis in the rural communities, energy resiliency, food security, agriculture. So there's a lot of topics that are pretty much relevant to Alaska for the USDA. Then NISD is essentially the standards and baselines of technology. So they essentially make the rules of technology. They do have their own SBIR program that emphasizes in more cutting edge technologies and development. You have NOAA, and it's all about the oceans, but they have a strong emphasis also in coastal resiliency. So if you are someone that is developing an idea on how to conserve or how to monitor or how to mitigate or how to make coastal Alaska more efficient and actually resilient, that could be another agency it's worth looking at. The Department of Defense, it's all about the war fighter, but actually there are a lot of bases here in Alaska. There is the Joint Bear based in Anchorage. There is the Army base in Fairbanks. It's the other Air Force base in Fairbanks. So there's a lot of security and DoD needs here in Alaska, specifically that are related to the base. So it's always worth understanding what is really the opportunity at DoD. DoD does work a little bit different, like each branch of the DoD, Air Force, Navy, and Army have their own specific SBIR program, but they are all managed under this bigger umbrella of the Department of Defense. So right now, actually, DoD is one of the few topics that are open for solicitations. And it is always worth understanding, could I have an innovation that could help a challenge from Air Force, Army in Alaska? Maybe yes, maybe not. It's always worth, trying to assess that. And the other agency that it's available for SBIR CDR programs is the Department of Education. They encompass all things education, and they have a lot of emphasis in STEM. So if you have a passion in addressing STEM issues, this is potentially a good option. Having said that, their SBIR program, it's pretty limited. So they only have one solicitation per year, and they have not as much as of a bigger budget for SBIR awards, like for example, NSF or the Department of Defense. So it's always good to understand how much money these agencies have available for SBIR STTR awards, because you'll have a better idea of how likely you might be able to get an award, how competitive it could be ultra competitive if they only have, for example, $100 million for the entire country. So it's something to kind of think about and be aware of. The Department of Energy, all things energy, they do have 3 solicitations throughout the year. So they just closed recently their phase 1 solicitation, but they also encompass bigger topics for Alaska and the Arctic. So it's always worth trying, understanding, and seeing what they are looking for. NIH, it's all about the healthcare and health for Americans. So you're looking at all of the different medical innovations, biotech, and they do have funding available as well for SBIR and STTR, especially. So that's something to keep in mind. The DHS, protection of critical infrastructure on the borders. I think maybe also a good topic here in Alaska, given our big scale as a state and limited road availability, but infrastructure is very critical here. Also worth the shot if you are around that topic. The Department of Transportation, Highways, Railways, EPA, all things environment and green technology. NASA just wants to support space missions, and ultimately the NSF, which has the broader scope out of all agencies, but they do emphasize in breaking through technologies in engineering, mostly all sciences. They also actually have healthcare and biotech topics, but it is important to understand that NSF is very much dedicated to either the use of technology in new breakthrough ways or the development of new edgy technologies. And what is Alaska FAST, right? So you might be wondering, okay, Evelyn works at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, and she's able to explain me what is SBIR, STTR, why. So this is the reason why. And the Alaska FAST program was recently launched in the state of Alaska to serve underrepresented and underserved entrepreneurs. So we were awarded a grant for the Small Business Administration to create a program to support innovators to apply for SBIR and STTR funding. And that is essentially my job, right? I am the one in charge of developing the services, supporting entrepreneurs through their process, and hopefully see them succeed at SBIR, STTR. And a few of the things we offer in our program is first agency and topic navigation. So we meet, we have a conversation about what is your idea, what is your technology, and we kind of try to understand better, obviously, what could be a good opportunity at the time. As you guys just heard, solicitations are not always available or open throughout the year, so we need to keep an eye on what are the solicitations that are available or the ones coming up. But it's not always too early to start developing a proposal. If you have identified an agency that you are a really good fit, then there is a very likelihood that a lot of the topics that were released the previous solicitation will be in this other new solicitation. So innovation doesn't really in itself has changed dramatically in the past couple of years or overnight. So you're looking at the same disruptive technologies and uses, but how they are used maybe are different, and that makes it innovative. So we kind of assess that and obviously gauge what really is, I guess, the closest opportunity for a submission or like the long-term opportunity. Kind of depends on the entrepreneur and what are they looking for to get out of the resources we offer. We actually do offer proposal writing training. So this is essentially an accelerator that will kick off in May, and we're gonna have industry and grant writing experts explaining us step by step how to write a successful proposal. We obviously review your phase one proposal. We give you feedback. It's not only me, it's other people from our team that has applied for SBIRs that are very much experienced in the research and technology development part of the university. So you get serious feedback and comments in order to make your proposal more successful. And the most important and valuable thing is if you want to meet with one of our expert grant writers, we can make that happen and we can pay for their services. So we have two different grant writers that have its own style of helping entrepreneurs. I like to think it that way. One of them is more coaching and the other one is more hands-on. Obviously, you are the expert of your business and your innovation. So this doesn't mean that they're going to be the ones writing your grant from the T, right? You need to be actively part of that process, but they are two different styles. I would like to say also that we offer mentorship and networking opportunities. If you are looking to connect with someone within the University of Alaska system or the Alaska state in itself, it will be great to understand what are your needs and make those introductions. We are part of a broader entrepreneurial ecosystem, so we have relationships with the generator that helps entrepreneurs raise for capital. We work in Anchorage with the Alaska SBTC. There are broader opportunities for entrepreneurs to become more resilient and more successful. It's just a matter of understanding, obviously, what are your needs and what are the opportunities that you see fit. There are a lot of opportunities. It's really up to the innovator. These are the SBIR 101 virtual workshops where we discuss what is SBIR and potentially explain more about the program. And we're gonna have finally we do collaborate with the Alaska SBDC on the Phase 0 program. So if you're interested in that specifically, I will be part of that program as well. And I can give you all that information and make sure that you successfully apply. So yeah, this is in a quick summary what we do as Alaska Fest. Our goal ultimately is to support and meet you where you are. So if you are someone that is a really good grant writer, but just really needs support on how to be successful, just like more pointers of agencies, that is one option. If you really need all the support, then that is another option. It's really up to the innovator. But I suggest, obviously, all this type of system and support and funding, it takes a long time. This is not going to happen in 24 hours or in a week. It will most likely take an average of like 400 hours of effort, and basically be aware that it's a free resource, but it's not that we will be doing your proposal, by no means. So something to keep in mind. Another opportunity that recently came up, and it's very exciting for the state of Alaska, is the SBIR Matching Funds Program. And this program, actually, it's common in other states that have resources for early stage entrepreneurs, but essentially the state of Alaska, SBIR, STTR, is assigned to award grant funds for for-profit businesses in Alaska that have been awarded a Phase 1 or a Phase 2. So this means that if you receive a Phase 1 this year or next year, you will have a chance of submitting for this additional funding to match that. It does not match to 100% of your Phase 1, but for Phase 1, their matching funds is up to $25,000. And for Phase 2 is up to $100,000. So this essentially means that added to your Phase 1 award, you're gonna be able to access an additional $25,000. It's huge, right? This means that you're gonna have a little bit of more of a runway capital to potentially take you to that Phase 2 proposal. This is why SBIR, STTR matching funds are so important in every state, is because it gives you an additional runway of funds to get to that Phase 2, and that you don't hit that valley of death where you could potentially go out of business and ruin your entire technology. So this is another important milestone for Alaska, and like its goal to support entrepreneurs. So it's a big deal. And programs similar to this have been deployed in Montana, and they have discovered that the economic impact of SBIR and also matching funds is up to $1 million just for a Phase 1. So it's a big deal long term, the ripple effect of SBIR programming and phases. So as an entrepreneur, I would say no one will end up not regretting not learning or pursuing an SBIR opportunity. Most likely, all of the entrepreneurs that I've met in my short time, obviously here in SBIR, CTR world, it's been significantly growth, ready for assessing. If it's not SBIR, then you are probably looking at an angel investor. If it's not an angel investor, then you're looking at a bank loan. There's all sorts of funding out there. You just need to understand what is that you are ready for. And SBIR, STTR proposal helps you understanding where are you at in this point, why do you actually need money for, what are you going to do with that money, and how much money do you need? And that's a hard question for entrepreneurs, because usually when you are talking to an entrepreneur, an innovator is telling you, oh, I just need money, and money is my biggest constraint right now. But sure, if you had access to an unlimited amount of money, what would you actually do with that money? And that's a question that usually it's hard to answer, because even if you had an unlimited amount of money, it will be very hard for you to overnight just magically develop your prototype or find the right factories to develop your product. It will take a long time to get there. So it won't happen overnight, and you need to understand really well what are the funds going to be used for, how is that going to happen structurally, and how are you going to be successful. So all of the entrepreneurs that I've met and that have developed proposals for an SBIR program, they have been better significantly. So it's a good idea to pursue it. Obviously, if your goal is research and development, if you're not looking for funds for research and development, then you're looking for other type of funding. You're looking probably funding for marketing or to hire a new team member. So it really depends really what you're looking for. And just really quickly, at the Alaska Center ICE at UAF, we do offer other programs for entrepreneurs, and one of those programs is Students to Startups. And this program is specifically a program tailored for small businesses to work with a student in the summer in a specific project. We pay the student internship for the summer that starts in May through August. In parallel to the internship, they have meeting with us to develop a skills and entrepreneurial mindset. The program for this year just recently kicked off. If you are a startup that is interested in the Students to Startups program, please do let me know ASAP. Maybe there's a chance that you can get in, but if not, keep it in your potential opportunity file, because it will be happening next year. So you don't want to miss out. And we already are almost April. So next summer is already around the corner, but after summer goes by, you'll probably be looking at applying for the program and get a student for the summer. So something to keep in mind. One more time, the Alaska SBC Trend program, this is rolling out in the next couple of months. So apply for those $10,000 and de-risk your technology, hire a grant writer. If you don't want to work directly with us, there are different things you can or take time off from your work and work on that. I mean, just different resources to make that work for you. And ultimately, there is every year, there is a few conferences that are tailored by the several federal agencies, but they work in partnership with this big conference organization that is called Tech Connect. And they have a conference in DC this June, and they have another conference in the fall. So in this conference I attend, it's a really good way of learning, again, what is SBIR, how it works, but the difference is that you get to meet with the federal agencies. So all of the program managers of all the federal agencies are there, and part of their job is to meet with entrepreneurs like you, and you can sit down and actually talk one-on-one with these people and understand really what do they want. And not only understand that, but also introduce themselves, right? These people receive hundreds and hundreds of applications every year, and you are not, they don't know who you are, they don't know, sounds like a great technology, but is this innovator really has the interest, has the skills, and it's going to make this project happen? So I always say, if you have the availability to attend a conference, it is a good option. There could be a chance we could sponsor part of your attendance to Tech Connect. We just need to talk about it one-on-one and see what are you kind of looking for, and if you're interested, and see what part of the attendance we can fund. So we have some resources, and it is a really, I will say, helpful program, but as everything you make out of the resources and services that we offer is really up to you and the entrepreneurs. So as something really, really interesting as well, we are preparing for SBIR accelerator that kicks off in May. And this SBIR accelerator that kicks off in May 4th is a 5-week program that is going to be all virtual, so it's nothing in person, but ultimately the topics are how to develop a successful proposal, tricks for grant writing, budgeting, which is also very important for a successful proposal development. We're gonna meet. There are gonna be some federal agencies that are gonna join us, and you can meet with them. It's all virtual. Obviously, that in-person aspect won't be there, but at least you'll have the opportunity to network with them and understand better of the program, just directly from their source. So something beneficial to keep in mind. And we're working on a demo day at the end of the program, so you can present to stakeholders in Alaska and potentially some federal agencies what you're working on. And the point of this demo day is basically for you to take and get the most out of those 5 weeks that you spend with us and able to present on what is your technology, what problem are you solving, and eventually what are your plans for research and development. So I think it's really exciting what is happening specifically for Alaska and these new opportunities, but I would suggest this is not, something that if you don't show up, it's good or bad. We're trying to be very flexible. We understand that in the state of Alaska, there's connectivity issues, there is life and balance issues, especially for entrepreneurs. So having that in mind, this program is designed for Alaskan entrepreneurs. It's not something that it's built just for building. So feedback is important. If you're interested in participating in the program, I'll be more than happy to hear your feedback, your thoughts, how could it be helpful for you and other entrepreneurs, right? It's important to understand that if you do well, other people, it doesn't matter if, and no one else does well, right? Like you want to do well, but then all of the people around you, so we continue progressing the innovation ecosystem and opportunities for everyone in Alaska. So having said that, yeah, this program is kicking off soon. I send usually the information for the registration via email. So if you're interested in the accelerator, please let me know. But we also have our newsletter where all of the information gets shared through the newsletter. I do not spam your inbox, so it's once a month. And it usually has a little bit more information of the upcoming solicitations, the ones that are available. So more specific topic releases and whatever is going on that month for the state of Alaska in an SBIR lens. So just a couple of other additional ways to be connected. And next month for our SBIR 101, we're actually going to do an NSF project pitch one. And I know John has been working on one and submitted one. So it might be a good idea if you join to that one. That's going to be tailored specifically for a quick SBIR 101 intro and then getting to the weeds of NSF project pitch. But having said that, I think we do have time for some questions. And I didn't know if I missed a question from any of you. You didn't unmute yourself, but you were always welcome to ask a question. But having said that, I'm curious now if anyone else has questions and we can start from there.
Hey, Evelyn, in one segment of this, you discussed the phase one funding of 75 to 275,000, and then it said 3 to 12 months. Is that the time that you have use of that money, or is that it takes 3 to 12 months to get that money?
No, so that is for the project implementation of using that money. So to get that money is actually the 4-month rule. You submit your proposal, and technically it's supposed to be 90 days, but it's not. So you're looking at like 3 to 4 months. But to use the funds, the execution of your phase one could be between 3 months up to 12 months. So that's the duration of your phase one.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we do have a couple of extra minutes for questions.
Hi, I'm Elisa. I'm a pediatrician in Whale Pass, Alaska, which is in northern tip of Prince of Wales. So I'm not sure if what I'm working on qualifies as innovative. So if I could just run it by you. So I have a private practice, but one thing I'm working on, and I'm going to do a separate DBA, doing business as, for this project, is implementing peer support services for Alaskans. And basically what peer support is peer-to-peer support for people who are experiencing mental health issues, who are experiencing substance use issues, who are experiencing trauma. And as far as I'm concerned, anyone in Alaska, you know, the pandemic caused trauma for everyone. There is a lack of mental health care access here in Alaska, especially Prince of Wales and Ketchikan. And it's just a nice service to have available to help families when there are no mental health services available or the wait lists are really, really long. So I don't know if that's innovative enough, but that's kind of what I'm working on right now.
Well, nice to meet you. And so first of all, I first want to state that I am not an expert in innovation. I am here to provide resources and get you through the process that it's SBIR. And the answer to your question is yes, you are solving a problem that's very much needed for rural Alaska. And there are opportunities in SBIR specifically for mental health, access and resources. Having said that, obviously we don't have the details of who, what, when, where, how, right? Because you know how your idea is still here in your head, and I don't know much about your topic, but there is opportunities. There are opportunities in SBIR, and ultimately, I think what the SBIR program aims to do and the federal agencies is definitely solving issues in the mental health issue aspect, but also in rural Alaska. So I can see there are some opportunities based on the topics that have been released, and it will be great to connect one-on-one and kind of me understand better what you're thinking of, and then me explaining you where I think those resources may be and what other opportunities could be, but also what solicitations could be a good fit. But NIH does have the NIH Institute of Mental Health. So they do have specific extramural opportunities, and these are not essentially nothing related to medical, but more other type of innovation and approaches. So I'll be very curious to talk about that as well. And there are programs that are potentially a good fit. So actually, I think we have time for this one. And this is a trick that John has seen me do before. And the SBIR website has a search engine for awards that have been given historically through the program. So when you go and access to this search engine, you can look up the information and topics of recent awards. So I will send you the link for this website, and I know the screen is loading, but here we are. Okay, perfect. So I usually like to ask people when they don't know where to start or what could be the right fit for what agency could be the right fit. I usually suggest folks to do a little bit of more research and say, well, because this is an idea, right? You have not created a per tribe or done research, right? You all can always find sources of inspiration. And you can always understand, okay, well, if I pivot a little bit, or if I implement another some technology, let that be an AI algorithm or a anything really, that could be considered innovative, and that's indeed the case. So I already have here mental health, and this search engine really works like Google a little bit. But the nice thing here is that in the left side, you have the different federal agencies. So you have the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Commerce, the National Institutes of Standards and Technology. So NIH, that's what kind of like mainly we're looking at. The Department of the Air Force, Health Agency, there's a bunch of them. So you kind of go scrolling and selecting probably a phase one. You want to read those examples. I think maybe let's potentially say what solutions have been done in 2022, like this past year, but you can go all the way back until 1983. So not sure if you want to do that, but it's worth the research, right? It is one of those things that it's a big opportunity, but also involves a lot of research and investment in your time. So, and then you can even select to view the information through states. So there's none in Alaska, as you can see. There's 6 in California, Connecticut, Massachusetts. Having said that, this search engine is not perfect, right? So the more specific or the more broad that you want to be, it will pull out more data from the system. So you have to be kind of, I want to say like ingenious about what words you kind of like research, depending on what is the innovation that you're looking at doing, right? But for example, I kept it simple right now, and I just typed mental health and then went to a phase one. And the first thing that the system sent to me is knowledge handover framework. It's the Department of Defense, so it's not NIH, and it says something knowledge handover of institutions with complex. So this is more like institutions to an institution data sharing. So that doesn't really sound like what you're thinking or mentioning. But you will kind of review them and see, oh, that actually looks a little bit interesting. This one, it's actually from the NSF, and it says an intelligent mental health care companion for kids. That one sounds like maybe a little bit closer. But you kind of browse here, and let's see if we put here rural. Let's see what happens. Phase one. Let's see. So, okay, so we got here something from NIH, which I think it's a little bit more appropriate, but brief personalized feedback intervention for Latinos, hazardous drinkers, a community-based intervention. So it has the community peer-to-peer sound, right? Underrepresented. There's they're more specific on what exactly they are addressing. It's like drinking. And it says it's the NIH, so you have the Department of the National Institutes of Health. You have the agency specifically, the contract, the award number, you have the amount, so it's $259,000. It's a phase one, and it's an STTR, right? They partner with the research institution to carry out the work. And you have, so they solicited for this award in 2021, and they got awarded in 2022, and they're gonna start, they started in award date, so I think it maybe got delayed, so it probably is gonna go until April, it looks like it. So you have the information, you have the name of the company, where they located, they're not underrepresented, so they mark all of that here, but you have the principal investigator information here, they have their business contact, and they partner with the University of Houston. So this is their partner organization. And thankfully, every company is supposed to share an abstract of their project, and sometimes they're long and sometimes they're short, but thankfully this one is really long. So you can kind of like read and summarize really quickly kind of like what they're doing. Then again, I'm not an expert in innovation or mental health or NIH, but I can gouge, like in a gist, okay, this is what they're doing. So you say it's a service, it's a platform, it's AI, and for who, right? It is for a community, what kind, and then most importantly, assess what are those tasks, what are that phase feasibility, concept development of what they're doing. So I think we don't have time to like review this entire one right now, but let's take 1 minute to kind of like really quickly read it and see what sort of like highlights more that are a little bit similar. So they say here, the current phase 1 STTR project directly aligns with the published NIAAA, so it's like an agency within the NIH, SBIR STTR research interests. So that's recent, right? Like they're probably looking for similar solutions still. It says mobile device application to improve the effectiveness, accessibility, and use behavioral interventions for AUD and co-occurring disorders, and solutions for minority health and health disparities with capabilities for reaching persons in rural, remote, and under-resourced and underserved communities. So we know that in 2021, they were looking at this solicitation. So for example, after I read this, I would go to the NIH. All of this is public data. So you can go to the NIH website and look for the solicitation and read it through and understand what they're looking for. Might be a long shot. If you get stuck in the process, please do let me know. But you will read the entire solicitation and say, this is, because it's very specific. Each agency have like their own narrative and how the say words and how they kind of explain what they want. But for example, you say, okay, well, this sounds like I'm not a good fit, but actually I am a good fit because I'm trying to respond similarly to the solicitation like the solution was. So kind of like making an understanding what was awarded based on what solicitation and making an assessment. Okay, so this is sort of like the wording, the format. This is kind of like the language they speak because they have their own language, each agency. So gouging better like what the opportunity could be, but they're responding to this solicitation. So this is really nice. And look a little bit. So this is an absolute app. And how they're doing it is it says, we will utilize an interactive approach using expert input and focus groups. So they're doing focus groups and bringing experts to talk about the process and number of participants, I'm assuming. And like that, they're going to design and develop the prototype. Then says, we will then assess program navigation and conduct usability testing of alignment among the users. Okay, so I think this might be a good example for you to research a little bit more and kind of outline a little bit, for example, a phase 1, what is that you are phase 1 doing. But some things that I always suggest and might seem a little unorthodox for innovators is, it's really important to network, right? And for example, as this example that we just read, they probably didn't have the resources or the experts in their team, right? So they partnered with the university to bring those experts and do the assessment of the study. So it's good to understand what other people did, how could you do it, and then also network and research. So it's the fact that it's public data means that you can access this data, right? I'm not breaking any rules on this, but you can also network, right? It's like, you know, I always say like, it's always better to ask someone, oh, like I read your SBIR proposal. I think it looks amazing. Probably you will never get a response, right? Let's be honest, who knows? But in the best case scenario, you do. And correlating, especially I think in like the healthcare and mental health issue, it's a little bit more approachable, right? Just because of the fact of it's a big problem to solve. And so much needed. So it's really good to understand. I really see someone here in Alaska, or maybe this example, it could be a good reference for me to understand what are they doing, me to share your idea. That's how you flesh out ideas, like sharing and sort of developing and scoping it more. I think you are a good fit. You are a really good fit. So it's just a matter of like fleshing out the details, finding the right solicitation. Obviously, this one is still available. I'm not sure. We have to look it up. But if not, then waiting for that one or research a new one. So it's I think it's interesting, it's needed. But having said that, there could be other opportunities, right? It's not only SBIR. And I'm gonna put the link here. And I think with
Thank
that,
you.
we're on time.
Thank you. I actually have to hop off to another meeting, but thank you so much. It is important work, and I'll send you email in terms of follow-up.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And John,
Thank
I
you.
will also think we're gonna follow up soon. So I appreciate you both, and I will see you soon.
Thank you.